consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission: to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
All right. Hello, everybody out there in podcast land. I'm Tim C. Starr. I'm your host for The Universe Between Your Ears. I'm joined on this episode by my ever-present co-host, Mr. Gabi Musheyev.
Hey, guys. Great to be here. Thank you, team. Hi, Diana.
Hello.
We're also joined by our guest today, of course, Diana Collins. And I'm going to let Diana tell you most of the things about herself, but what I will tell you that she's many things. She's a wife, a mother. She's got two beautiful girls. You posted a picture yesterday. Gorgeous.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
So cute.
Thank you.
She's a postpartum depression survivor. She's a postpartum doula, president of the Always With Me Foundation, which we're going to talk about. She's an author. She's a podcast producer. She obviously doesn't produce this one, otherwise it'd be a lot more professional. She's a very busy woman. And among other things, she says that life is too short and that we need to live the life we deserve.
Yes.
And I'm 100% in agreement. So, Diana, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And let's dig into this thing and see where it takes us.
Yeah.
So, all right, you're really in the middle from a couple of different aspects here of this whole. It seems to be, in particular, lately, a really big. There's a lot of buzz around it. There's a lot of talk about it, but mental illness.
Right. Yep.
And there's always whatever issue is in the news or whatever. It always the talk seems always to talk about how terrible we are dealing with it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, in this case, I think mental illness is. I don't think there's many people who would argue that we can do better.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question is, how do we do better?
Yeah.
But so let's get into that a little bit. But also, we're also going to need to talk about your foundation. But I think that's going to come up naturally. We need to talk about what the heck a doula is. I don't know where we're going with this thing. So let's jump in, say hello. How'd you come to be sitting where you're at, and who the heck are you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on here. I am, like Tim said, Diana Collins, and the founder of the Always With Me Foundation. It's kind of I accidentally fell into this field, fell into the entrepreneur world. 2 years ago, my best friend lost her life to postpartum depression, and it took my world I just went down under, and I hit rock bottom. It took me by surprise. We were only 26 years old, and I think she was about a few years younger than me, or a few months younger than me, and I was pregnant with my second daughter. So once I was at her funeral, 4 weeks later, I was giving birth to my second daughter, and ever since then, my life and my depression just hit rock bottom. I became suicidal. I just didn't want to live anymore. I wanted to be with my friend, and that's all I wanted. She was my best friend. She was supposed to be there at the birth. She was supposed to be rooting me, cheering me on as, our friendship and motherhood. We were supposed to do this all together. And excuse me if I get emotional, but when I think about it, that time of the birth, I was just, the only thing I could think about was like, why is Sabrina not here? Why is she not here? Why hasn't she called me? So 8 months into that, 8 months after the death, I became severely suicidal. I started fighting with my husband, far more than, I was just not myself.
Right.
And, amongst other things like motherhood and working full time and all that stuff just kind of came into the factor as well as depression, as well as grieving. And I said, I'm done. I need to quit my job and I'm done. I need to focus on healing. And so I did that. I started my own podcast because naturally I just don't like not working. And I started the podcast, the Always With Me podcast. I started meeting wonderful mothers, started sharing their stories. And then that turned into a nonprofit where we donate postpartum doulas to mothers who are at risk of depression, anxiety, any type of mental illness. So that's how we're here now after 2 years.
Wow, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to just be really clear in case anybody listening didn't quite catch it, didn't quite put the dots together. Your friend killed herself.
Yep.
Yeah, I was listening. I didn't get a chance to finish it, but I was listening just a few minutes ago to your podcast where it's just you talking about this journey, and it's pretty emotional, even for a rough, tough guy like me.
It's still hard for me after.
Of course, I mean it's going to take time. I mean the adage about time heals is true, but it doesn't mean that memories go away. It doesn't mean that feelings go away. It just makes things things are a little easier to deal with.
Right.
So a couple of different things came up for me while you were talking. One being that you at least had the presence of mind, or you were in a position to understand that something is wrong and you need to deal with it.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Versus what a lot of people do. And mental illness is not like depression, just to pick one, it is not just it's here in this box, right? Or it's not just at this level of consciousness. There's a whole range, there's a whole spectrum on all of these things. So there's no simple, this is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Because something like depression affects everybody at various points in their life, right? Absolutely. It's just a question of degree.
Yeah.
But I've had my own issues, and I know that when you're in the middle of it, it's really hard to think of, okay, I need to turn to somebody or something. I need to do something other than what I'm doing, other than being just curled up in a fetal position on the bed with the curtains drawn. I need to do something else to fix this.
Yeah.
So,
and for me, it was the amount of my family. I had depression when I was younger, and it was easier for me to curl up in bed and just go to sleep. And unfortunately, that was something that my parents never understood, like why. They just thought I was a lazy teenager. And like any mother and father would, but now that I'm a mother, I can't sit up in bed all day long. Mm-hmm. I have to be a mom. So that was when I was like, okay. And my husband was like, you got to do something because this here is not working. So,
yeah.
What is the postpartum doula?
Yeah.
Right. Just to clarify also. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell the difference between a birth doula and a postpartum doula. A birth doula.
And can we, at the same time, I just want to be really anal about this, and for anybody who doesn't know, let's also sort of give a definition about what's postpartum all about and how does that play in here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So postpartum is basically after giving birth. You'll say like 6 weeks postpartum, which means 6 weeks after giving birth, or 1 year postpartum, even 1 year after giving birth. And so that is that period of time where your body is healing from birth, your hormones are coming back to normal. So between day one postpartum and about a year, that is a very sensitive time in a woman's life, especially if she's a first-time mother. I sure as heck didn't know what I was doing and what all of these things that your body is doing to you, after the fact of after giving birth to your child. So that's basically what postpartum means. And the sad thing is that and I'm sure you gentlemen notice this, but when women are pregnant, they go to the doctor on a monthly basis, weekly basis. They take their prenatals, they take their vitamins, all of this stuff. But after we give birth, our doctors or nurses or society is like, okay, good luck.
Yeah.
And we don't take care of the women after giving birth. And the way I look at it is that you go back in the 1800s, you even go back in the caveman days, they had their village. What happened now? Why are we expected to do this by ourselves? So I hope that helped with my meaning of postpartum.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So basically, what postpartum doulas do is we go into the home of the mother, and after birth, it can be her decision, like the day after or the week after. I'll go in there and I help her with cleaning. I help her with the baby, with sleep, just little tidying up, little things that we tend to forget after you have a child.
Mm-hmm.
And this is even if just emotional support. Sometimes I'll go into a mother's home and all we did for 3 hours was talk. Mm-hmm. And that was enough for her. Mm-hmm. I make sure that the mom is fully fed, because if she's breastfeeding and she's not fed, the baby will not be healthy or will start losing weight. Basically, we're giving her a village. We're giving her that village again.
And that's where the name comes from, right?
Yes. So
the name is what? How you say that?
Always with me. Yes.
Always with me.
Yes. That came from, I thought about my best friend and that she's always going to be with me throughout this whole journey.
Yes.
And I'm the same for the moms, that I'm always going to be with them. Even after 6 weeks, I'll still be their friend.
And this is a local thing, or is this already going, in different locations?
Yes, we are in Vegas and then as well as Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our license.
That's an obvious leap.
I know, right? It's like such a big gap. But I found my board members on the internet, and they were moms who suffered as well. And we came together on this internet space and said, let's do this,
I want to join this.
That's awesome.
Do you accept dads?
Gabi wants to be a doula.
You could be a dad doula.
I love little babies.
A doula.
Yes, you can be a dad doula. I love it. Yeah, but no, our goal I'd say in the next 5 years, I'd like to be nationwide. So.
Why not? Yeah.
Awesome.
So, all right. So it's what I'm hearing. This is just kind of a sort of an all-around support position. You're going in being sort of surrogate mommy a little bit, maid, cook maybe, or even and in large part just a companion for them to have somebody to share whatever with, right?
Yep.
So has there been time a couple of things. Is this a brand new idea? And if not, has there been enough time? And I'm completely ignorant on this, so maybe this has been around for 200 years, and there's all kinds of statistics, and we know all this stuff. But I'm going to ask the question: is there information? Is there data that points at women who are able to have a doula? Mm-hmm. Can you show a reduction in postpartum depression or the consequences maybe of postpartum depression?
Yeah, I love how you asked that question, because it's such in the aspect of, is it new? It's not new, but our community and our society does not know about it enough to where they're like, because the thing is that postpartum doulas, they charge an hourly rate. And so it's fairly, I would say, between $30 to $40 an hour. And
really?
X amount of, It's not cheap.
Who's going to want to spend this money?
Exactly. And that's exactly why nobody knows about this stuff. So that's why maybe, I'm sure there are statistics. I'm just not that kind of, I don't look at that stuff because it gives me so much headache. But I do know that with support for that mother, because depression can come from either an underlying depression from childhood or just the pressure of being mom. So it can, depending on where she's at in depression, like you said earlier in the call, there's different levels. Her postpartum depression can go away just by having my help, or I can help it, and then she can also seek professional help. Right. So it all depends. But as far as, and that's where my goal is, to get everybody knowing about postpartum doulas. And we donate them because we believe that everyone, no matter what financial state you're in, deserves that village. And insurance won't pay this. So, unfortunately.
Yet, right? Won't pay yet.
Yes.
So, is postpartum, I know with ordinary, quote unquote, ordinary, with the depression that most people, I think, probably think of when you mention the word. I think probably most of the time it's really just an issue of the way we think in the moment. But there is also clinical depression that is medical. It's a chemical imbalance in your brain. Right. Is that the same? I have a hunch for what the answer is, but is it the same with postpartum? Is it how much? Is it? I'll leave it there. Is it the same kind of a night?
So, the way I understand it is that with postpartum depression, there could be hormone levels. So when you're pregnant, your hormones go up. After you give birth to your baby, your hormones start crashing down. And they say that there's something, and I can't quite quote who says this, but there's something in that time with your hormone levels affecting your brain. So there's a little piece of that, and then there's a little piece of environment. Women who are at risk of postpartum depression or mental illness are women in poverty, single women, teen moms, first-time moms, basically everybody. Motherhood is we live in a society now where motherhood is looked at, she's supposed to do everything. And if she's not doing everything, if she's not breastfeeding, she's a bad mom. So in my opinion, really, there's a little bit of that chemical imbalance, but there's also a big society view and how we view our mothers today. So that's what you're saying is this is in larger part, it's psychological. Yep.
It's how people are viewing themselves, and you'll have all of that. I'm supposed to be this, but I'm not. Right. Bad me, and okay. All right. Yeah. And we all know about the hormonal thing because making the brain different, because we see that on a regular basis. I'm not saying anything. But,
just curious, Diana, were you like when it happened? Were you like seeing a doctor, and consulting with them? And what did the medical community have to say on this? Yeah.
Well, so for anyone who's maybe listening, who may be in this situation, I've already been in that mental illness background. I've been seeing therapy after or before having kids. But this time around, I knew that I didn't want to go to my OBGYN. Mm-hmm. Because I felt that, and what everybody else was saying is that they weren't helping these moms. They didn't know what to do with these moms. Mm-hmm. So I went directly to a therapist. And the therapist sent me directly to a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. So for anyone who's listening and they feel like they're having these issues and they automatically feel like they should talk to their obstetrician, me personally, you should probably seek therapy. And if your therapist thinks you need psychiatry, then you should probably, just go to the source, really. Mm-hmm.
Well, you go to somebody who has training in the area.
Absolutely.
Right? It's you're not going to go to a mechanic to find out how to eat better.
Well, say if you went to see a psychiatrist, and I had a little experience with that.
Yeah.
There was a session that lasted about an hour, going through all kinds of questions. In the end, a psychiatrist prescribed medication, actually not one, 2 or 3, and asked us to see them in about a couple of months, right? And then we came home, being responsible. I started Googling everything that he prescribed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was horrifying,
Yeah.
what I found, right? It was scary, as a matter of fact. And we had a long and hard talk about this, and we thought, it looks like if we are getting on this path, we may not even come back.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that, because
so it was something.
you have to be I've noticed in the medical field, you have to be your own advocate. I hate to say this, but some doctors may not be in their best interest. And for me, I knew I needed medications because I had already known that I had some baggage back in my childhood. I knew I needed to get that fixed. But he started me on a low dose and one medication. So, and I knew that, okay, I like this guy. I'm not going to leave him. And I was lucky enough, because not everybody gets the same experience, but I was lucky enough to have an advocate who was like, let's start you on a low dose and see where you go. Have I gone up from then? Yes, because we've found different illnesses that issues that I've had going the past 2 years, but you have to be your own advocate, and that's sad to say, but.
Well, but I don't think it's sad to say, but it just is, you've got to be your own advocate in every area of life.
Yeah.
It's just that this is not an area that we normally think we're going to be placed in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so who the heck gives it any thought?
Yeah.
And then once you're in the middle of it, you're in the middle of it.
Right.
And so.
Well, a person who is desperate, right? I understood from conversations, right? Luckily, I didn't experience this, but as you were describing this in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
I can sometimes kind of come down to your vibration, and I almost felt helpless and desperate and scary. It was a bad state to be in. It's almost like there's no way out, and you're so consumed by it, and you're feeling trapped, right? And you're feeling, I thought I could control everything, but turns out I'm helpless here, right? So when this person experiences this, how could they be their own advocate? I mean, they're not in the position to be advocate, right? So somebody who you trust, right, needs to become your advocate.
Yeah.
But that person, so in this case, right, so suppose you started on a dose and the doctor, you're lucky, gave you that. And, I had experience with Prozac, right? Not personally myself, but, and I started researching that because it was prescribed, right?
Yeah.
And there was this guy who had a lot of views. There was like 500,000, I think, views on his YouTube videos. And he said, 10 reasons why I hate Prozac.
Interesting.
Okay, extreme. I'm thinking, well, let's see. I'm listening to everything.
Yeah.
And so many views, right? And he explained actually very intelligently what Prozac did as far as the mechanics of serotonin management in the brain, right?
Yeah.
And then he explained that once this thing is done by this external substance in your body, right, that seriously disrupts your natural ability, your body's natural ability to do that same job, right? And so that's why withdrawal, if you want to go cold turkey and stop,
right,
taking Prozac could be very, very tragic.
Yes.
Right? You can't do that. You cannot under no circumstances do that.
And that's why I tell everybody is that if you're on medications, please do not go cold turkey without the help of your doctor, because it can be very scary. I don't have experience with Prozac, but I have not heard good things about it. It is quite intense, but when you talked about how can you be an advocate for yourself when you're not in a good state, it made me think of my husband. And you have to have somebody who is stable enough to be like, okay, you're not doing so good. And that's my husband for me. If I didn't have him, I don't know if I'd be here. He's the one who is in that stable mindset and could watch me and be like, you're not acting yourself. Let's take you to the doctor. And he's gone to my appointments with me. Compared to 2 years ago, it was hard for him to understand. So I went to my therapy sessions by myself, and we weren't getting anywhere. So I'm glad you brought up that point, because when you have your support, it makes a big difference.
Are you guys, as doulas, right, as part of this, are you also including that part in your support?
Well, so we don't do medical, obviously, because that can get into some waters. But we do have support. I have some support groups here in Vegas. I have support groups online, and my online support group, we go in there if it's late at night. We have women from Australia, from China, all around the world to help support our little group in this internet world. And if somebody has an issue, hey, today I'm doing so good. My kid is, all kinds of tantrums and it's driving me crazy. I just need someone to tell me I'm not alone. That makes such a difference.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. I'm going to do something that we don't normally do. Usually we make people wait until the tail end of the conversation to give out contact information or anything. But if there's somebody out there who's listening to this, I don't care when it is, and they have a baby
on their hands, right?
What do I do to help me? Where do I go? Diana, please give that information. How do they get to that group or whatever?
Let me get you guys the information for PSI. Excuse my typing.
And we'll come back to this also at the end and go over the whole thing, but I want to get it out right now.
So my group is called, let me search it real quick, Mommy Tribe with Always With Me. And so that's our support group online in Facebook. You can search that and we will accept you, of course.
Okay. Repeat that, please.
Sure. It's called Mommy Tribe with Always With Me.
Okay.
I know it should be the other way around, but I never changed it. So I just figured, well, it's just going to stay that way, I guess. But also a very great resource is the Postpartum Support International. And that's postpartum.net. They are a big, huge foundation here in the States that offer support locally. So wherever you're at, you can search your zip code and there will be somebody there to help you. So
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Now I want to back up a step, because when you were talking about, having your husband there to be able to be your advocate and things, that's not always the case for somebody.
Right.
But you did something on Facebook. Now we met a half an hour ago, face to face, right?
Yes.
We're on mutually in a group on Facebook, and that's how we got connected in the first place. But we only first laid eyes on each other over the internet here a half an hour ago. But you did something on Facebook that I don't know. I just feel the need to encourage other people. What you did was you reached out, right? And this was like a week ago.
Yeah.
You were going through some deep shit.
Yeah.
And you reached out and basically sort of let your feelings be known, just kind of let people know you're going through some crap. And, you got a huge response. I responded, which I wouldn't normally do, but I want to encourage other people to, if at whatever point, that you're starting to feel like some ugliness is coming on, recognize it, right? We got to all recognize. The first step is being able to recognize these things. But if you recognize it, then talk to somebody, start asking. And yeah, there will probably be people who don't want to hear it. There will be people who don't understand the issue. They won't understand why you're even bothering. Yeah, just get out of bed and go do something, right?
Right.
But there will be people who will be willing to try to help you.
Yes.
And that may be all you need.
Yep.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around. Bye-bye.